Hi, this is Lorraine again, and I'm doing another video. If you'll give me just a minute to clear, center, and balance my energy, then we'll get started, okay? So this week, again, we're going back to messages I've received over 9 years. Things I never thought I'd be asked to talk about. I thought it was just to help me on my path. But I'm being asked to speak about these things. And one thing I've learned is to always listen to my intuition, always move outside my comfort zone, because that's where first growth is, but also I wasn't put on this world in this lifetime to stay in my comfort zone. Many lifetimes I've always lived outside the paradigms that were presented, always pushed the envelope, always was the person I chose to be as opposed to the person I was expected to be or I was taught to be through stereotypes or social design. So as I go into this video, I just wanted to, I had a couple notes. So one was angel numbers. If I'll put this information links in the description, but angel numbers are numbers that resonate with you, and they're assigned, each number is assigned, let's say, a meaning, kind of the same as numerology, and similar, but a little different, because the intent is different. And so today I had two numbers that came to me, 3355 and 2707. And just in a nutshell, and I will put these in the description, 3355 is a message that says, listen to your intuition, and I always listen to my intuition. And 2707, in a nutshell, is release whatever is holding you back. Release any energy, memories, experiences from this lifetime that is holding me back or are holding me back from being the person I need to be in this world, in this lifetime, to fulfill my soul purpose. And those were pretty profound, considering I was sitting here all day thinking how I didn't want to talk about these things, but I will. So I'm going to read this really fast. The last video I mentioned I needed to forget who I was, so I could be the person I'm meant to be in this lifetime. So I need to forget the person I was taught to be, Lorraine, the paradigms I was raised in, the stereotypes, the belief systems I was raised in. I have to forget those things so I can become the person I'm meant to be in this world, in this lifetime, to fulfill my soul purpose. So that's going to be the theme of this video, forgetting who I am, who I was told to be, to help others see themselves in a different light. So two videos ago, the video, I think it was Be Merciful, Be Kind, I talked about awakening light workers to their purpose. So that's basically what this video is about. And it's very specific light workers. And I don't really want to talk about it, but I'm going to, because the messages are so strong that it's time to talk about it. Because so the last video I talked about politics, which is not something I care to talk about, because I believe people have to make their own decisions in their own life. They have to listen to the messages that come to them and allow those messages to inspire them to be the people that they're meant to be in this life. And I don't feel that I can direct people. I can give information based on with the messages that come to me. The messages are very clear to me, and I accept that divine guidance without question. One of the other things I've mentioned is I don't drink. I don't do anything that's mind altering, nothing, because it's important to keep your energy clear, centered, and balanced. And anything that alters the consciousness moves you out of balance. And once you're moved out of balance, that allows the negative polarity to come in and manipulate. And it's very subtle. They're not hitting you over the head with stuff, telling you to do evil things. It's a very subtle manipulation that comes in and kind of influences you gently, or kind of feeds the ego, is a very big, strong method of influence, feeding the ego to get you to move in the direction that this negative polarity wants you to move into. And so that's more easily and readily done while your consciousness is affected. So I don't do anything that will affect my consciousness or move me out of balance. And when I do move out of balance from emotions, frustration, or if I get angry, I'm very diligent about taking a few breaths and moving myself back into center, acknowledging that energetic shift, and then addressing it. And that's very, very important for me in trusting my intuition 100% of the time, and always allowing that divine guidance to come in and move me in the direction I'm meant to move. It's a complete surrender. And so I have completely surrendered, and I'm allowing this energy to come through and help me, guide me, and I've been guided to talk about this topic. So I'm going to take another second to recenter myself, to figure out where to start, because okay. So one of the things about being telepathic, psychic, people call me psychic, but again, what I am is a very, very spiritual person. Because of, I do readings to help guide people, and because I'm telepathic, people associate that with the esoteric community. But I was raised, my foundation and my spirituality is from Catholicism, and my grandmother and my father and my mother, and how they raised me. But I'm a very, very spiritual person who has just released the dogma of religion. And so being telepathic and very, very psychic, and when I move into when I walk by people, when people come into my energy field, when I look at pictures, when I think about someone or something, I pick up a book, I read a book, I get information all the time. And the longer that someone stands in my energy field, the more information that comes. And one of the most important parts of having this ability, and we all potentially have this ability, that's what we're moving into. We're all going to have this ability as we transcend and balance our energy as a collective. Everyone will be communicating telepathically, but as being one of the first emerging with this level of ability, it's very important to respect and honor people's privacy. It's extremely important to respect and honor people's paths. It's extremely important to not judge people based on their decisions. And through my own spiritual awakening, I had to look back at my own life and my own decisions and really realize I have no place to judge anybody else, because I've made my own mistakes. And you could say, but that person's mistake was so bad compared to what I've done. Well, that's your opinion. It's not my place to say whose errors, miscalculations, or mistakes are greater or lesser than anyone else's. And it's not my place to judge those choices. When we all pass to the light, our greatest judge is ourselves. We judge ourselves because we have infinite knowledge, and we can look at that life and say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then we learn, and then we move on to our next lifetime. We are our own greatest judge of our errors in judgment. So when I am around, I don't normally talk about this because I don't want people to be uncomfortable when they're around me, but when I'm in someone's energy field, I get an incredible amount of information. And when I focus and I'm doing a reading, it's like a tidal wave of information that starts coming in. And the more information I get from people verbally, the more information I get, and the easier it is to help people. But I'm telling you this because over the last 9 years, I've been getting information about people, and I talked about in the last video how tribulation is going to work and how we may be in civil war or civil unrest after the election, and it might get pretty ugly. And so when you talk about something negative like that, it's important to now talk about positive, talking about coming out of that, talk about the hope component. And so that's what this video is. But in order to do that, I have to talk to you about messages I've received about people who will be pivotal in the healing of this world. And the healing of this world will come through music. And so as I move forward in this video, it's really important for me to be very conscious about what I say and how I say it, because I don't want to violate people's privacy. It's very emotional for me to do this, because when I access the information about people, I get the good things in their lives, but I also feel the pain, and being highly empathic and feeling people's pain and having compassion for that pain is very difficult. But it's almost always necessary when I access people's energy field for me to have perspective in their lives, to access the pain, not just the positive. So there's balance in the information that's coming in. So as I move forward, I just wanted to say that. And I just need another minute because I need to know where to go from here. Okay. So, music is going to heal us after we move through the end of the year and after the election. And so I'm going to just start with the grunge movement of music was not accidental. It was intentional. It was by design. And the people who drove that movement are pivotal in the healing of this world. And I'm just going to cut to the chase now and explain what messages I've gotten for the last, some going back as far as 9 years, but 5 years. And I didn't know why I would get the messages, and I would ask, why am I getting these messages? Why am I getting this information about people? Why am I worried about these people as if they're my family, my brothers, my cousins, my children? Why do I worry about their children like they're my own children? I didn't understand. And it wasn't, I can't really explain it. It was very unsettling for me. Because especially since I had a lot of my own problems at that time, my own issues I needed to work out. But Chris Cornell, Matt Cameron, Ed Vedder, and Kim Thale are all profoundly, I'm going to say, old souls, and they're connected spiritually in a soul group. And if you study esoteric community and soul groups, these 4 souls are profoundly connected, and they came into this world with the intention of fulfilling this purpose to help heal the world through music. And in some past videos, I touched on how they're driven so hard through music, in their music, and probably sometimes ask themselves, why are they doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? And it's because of this. It's because they have come into this world to heal it through transcendence, through transcendence. And so Chris Cornell has passed, and they all have roles. Chris Cornell's role was this heart that he carried in him. And it's very difficult for me to talk about him because I know all the pain in his life. And I know the beauty in his heart and his soul. And I know how he was broken. And so I see his light. And then from that point, I see his soul. I see his lifetimes. And I know that Christopher is only a very small part of the soul that resides within the body. And so, as I talk about this, it's important to acknowledge this person as something more than Christopher, a musician, because what he has given this world over many lifetimes, the sacrifices he has made over many lifetimes in different roles is profound. Christopher is just a very small part of who this energy is. This was one role in this lifetime that he played. But if this soul that resides within this body, what he's done not only on earth, but throughout the universe is profound to create change on this level during transcendence. And then that is extended to Matt, Ed, and Kim. But Christopher's the heart, and Christopher was the spiritual component that was here to teach them their light work, how they were going to change the world. And this negative polarity knew that. And so the psychic attacks that came in on him, and where he was in his level of spiritual awakening, I just feel like he wasn't able to protect himself because of many things happening in his life. And so this is where the part of I have to honor and respect the person's privacy and the family, but it's important for people to know that there was more going on than what anybody could possibly conceive of at that point in his life in 2017. So now their role has been changed because one of the major people, their role hasn't been changed. How their role will manifest has changed because one of the pivotal people in their group is no longer here on the material plane. But I will tell you, he is trying to he contacts them constantly. The other three, Matt, Ed, Kim, he's constantly sending them messages. And so I will offer this. There are no coincidences, there's only synchronicities, and he always communicates through things that are associated with him at first. And once you trust that that is him communicating with you, then the messages will become more broad in scope. It may be on your computer photos of you and him, or songs written, or events that trigger certain memories about him. He's trying to communicate to awaken you to let you know he's still present and trying to help you still. But it's very difficult if you're not open to the messages, because you can have a flat out conversation with him telepathically if you're open to it, but first you have to open and learn how to translate the messages. But he communicates constantly. And so that's the first part, this movement in music that will heal. Christopher was the heart, and as you can imagine, Ed is the voice. He's the talker. He's the one who reaches out to people and people respond. And because he speaks from the heart, always from the heart, very grounded in his energy. And so so now I'm being told to talk. I have a funny, interesting story, and it is, I get information all the time about people, and I was told, you're not going to violate any privacy if you tell this story. You're not going to upset anybody if you tell this story. It's okay. So I'm going to tell it. And there's a couple parts to it. So first, my younger brother, when he was 3, got a little drum kit from Toys R Us. And we were not a Toys R Us family. We were very, very working class, not poor, but Toys R Us was expensive toys. He was so cute, though. He got a little drum kit from Toys R Us. That's how much my parents loved him for Christmas, I think in 1972. It had a little bass and a little snare and a little cymbal and little drumsticks that were like chopsticks. And every morning, 3 years old, this kid, he woke up at like 10:30 in the morning. He had bedhead, he'd come out, I'd be playing with my toys, and he'd be half asleep, and he'd walk out into the living room, and then he'd see that drum kit. He'd be like, he'd go sit behind it, grab the little sticks, and just start banging away. Oh my God, he was the happiest kid on the planet. He was like in heaven. He was so happy. He was so cute. Oh my God, he was so cute. And he didn't even drive me crazy. He drove me crazy a lot of the time, but it was okay because he was so cute and he was so happy when he was banging on those drums. And he would do it until my mother was done making him breakfast. And you knew my parents loved him because they first bought him Toys R Us drums, and then also would sit and let him bang on him as long as he wanted. So from there, I'm just going to talk about, I watched the Apple TV, what was that? It was the something festival, download festival, and Soundgarden was playing for the 25th anniversary of Super Unknown, I think. And so being on TV, you get camera shots of the drummer, right? Because you never can see him normally if you're in the audience, because he's like way in the back and he's behind his drums, right? So I'm watching it and I'm like, I was just laughing half the time when they did shots of him, because he'd just sit there and he'd bang, Matt Cameron banging on his drums. He was so happy. And then they'd stop and he'd just sit there. And then he'd have this grin on his face that was hysterical. I don't know why I thought it was so funny, but like then it was like, okay, next song, blah, blah, blah. He'd play it, then he'd stop, and then he'd just be sitting there kind of grinning, just with his own thoughts. And I just thought it was the funniest thing ever. But he reminded me of my younger brother when he was 3. And so it brought back like really pleasant memories of my childhood, and that might be why I thought it was so funny. And then, so I'm going to go to now, so Ed Vedder, when Pearl Jam tours, I don't know if you ever looked at tour schedules, they're pretty grueling. I don't even know how they do it. I remember watching MTV and looking at the tour dates going, oh my God, every single day they're in a different city. Sometimes they're going from one side of the United States to the other side of the United States in 24 hours, right? It was kind of disgusting, to be honest. I thought that was way too much to ask of any person. I said in the past, I used to have, when I had a car, I used to listen to XM radio, Pearl Jam radio, and listen to the concerts, and I would get these messages about Ed Vedder, and he told this story about he and his friend, they were 10, and they went to the dad's refrigerator in the garage and took beer, and he goes, I don't know how we thought that his dad wouldn't notice that we took 2 6-packs out, and then we took off and went to the playground on our bikes and drank the beer. So here I am imagining these 2 10-year-old kids riding their Huffies with the 6-pack under their arm, just laughing hysterically. I almost had to pull over. But that goes to when I'm listening to these concerts, I get these messages about, I see him backstage, and I see him like thinking, I want to go home. I'm ready. He's like missing his girls, something crazy, his wife and his daughters. I'm like, he's just like, I'm going home. I'm done. Like, he's looking for the exits. He's wondering, why did I even choose this career? You know, hindsight's 2020. You know, and then I like have this vision of him delivering Budweiser beer, parking the delivery truck in the middle of the road, and like using his hand truck to like deliver kegs and 12 packs or cases of beer to like 7-Eleven, which I think is hysterical. But these are his fantasies of normal life. Being able to come home, you know, 8 to 5, see his family every night, just be normal, like the fantasy of that life, just the same way people may fantasize about being a rock star. And he does not want to go on stage. He just wants to go home. I could feel it. I'm like, this man does not want to go. He wants to go home, and he's looking for the exits. He's ready to run. And somewhere, you know, he finds the wherewithal to go out on stage, and he's like, you know, the fans, I gotta go. And he goes out, but you know, his heart's at home. His heart's with his family. But he still goes out and to play music. And then, you know, the first song happens, and Matt Cameron just hits that drum and just blasts out the music, you know, just starts him off. And like that love that he has for playing those drums, like just hits Ed Vedder on the back of the head. It's like I can see the waves of energy just like bam, like hit him. And by the second or third song, like Ed Vedder's like, okay, I can do it. I can make it through this. I can make it through the rise. But this is a demonstration of how they work as a unit. You know, on really bad days where Ed just wants to go home, like that love that Matt Cameron has for what he does just blasts at him, you know, just when he's hitting those drums and he's got that grin on his face. And he's just like having a blast, like my little brother, 3 years old, banging those drums. That joy he has, just like he shares it with everybody, and it hits Ed on the back of the head, and it goes out into the audience, and it rejuvenates him. And so these energies work as a unit, and they came into this world as a unit, unified together through music in their 20s, and continually unified through Pearl Jam. But the dynamics changed when Christopher passed, and it, you know, it may seem weird. What Kim Thayil? I just have to comment about Kim Thayil. He's hysterical. I'm just gonna say he normally doesn't incarnate on the material plane. He doesn't like physical worlds. His soul, and he normally incarnates on worlds that are 100% consciousness. But coming into this lifetime, the souls, like all these souls were together, you know, I'm going to call them Christopher, Matt, Ed, and Kim, but in the spiritual world, you know, outside of the body, they have different names, but they all came together and they decided to come into this lifetime together to work on this issue, transcendence and tribulation. And they're like, you know, Kim, we need you to come. You know, we need you in this one. You know, we know you like to go on to those consciousness, into the purely conscious worlds, but we need you to come onto this physical plane. And he has been here before, but he just doesn't like it. He's like, it's too much work, there's too much baggage, there's too much junk. He just doesn't want it, you know, but he agreed. And every now and then I'll be sitting with myself, and all of a sudden they'll come into my energy field, and Kim's pissed. He's like, you know, you left me here, and now I'm having to live out the rest of this life, and you took off, and I'm here, and they go at it. And it's what's funny is the juxtaposition between the relationships in the spiritual realm and then on the material plane, because on the spiritual plane, Christopher is very calm and like, I'm sorry, I understand, and he's like this really patient energy, and Kim is like not happy. He's like, you changed everything, but on the material plane, it's the complete opposite. When Christopher was alive, it was like he was like one of the most stubborn people on the planet, and Kim is the calmer one, and the more grounded. I'm going to use that loosely, but you know, Christopher, I guess, went through a lot of years of not talking, and then all of a sudden 3 or 4 years later he's like in a famous rock band, right? Because he's tenacious, he's stubborn, he's whenever I'm in his energy field, he's like dig in. He's the most infuriatingly stubborn person who I've ever experienced in this lifetime, whose energy field I've ever gone into in this lifetime. Whether it be I've never met him in on the material plane, but spiritually, when he comes in, like, I get that stubborn energy. It's infuriating. He's not like that, but like I said, whenever energy comes into my space, I get information on him, and that's one thing that's like, he's a compassionate, loving, big heart, gentle soul, but boy, he was so stubborn. So I always I'm entertained by the juxtaposition between their spiritual lives and their relationship and their material plane life and their relationship. It just cracks me up. And I don't know if you ever see me at a bus stop or on the bus and I'm smiling, it's because a lot of times I'm like on these other planes of existence, and I'm engaging these spiritual entities or energies, and communicating telepathically, and I have no poker face, so it all shows up on my face. So I just wanted to talk about the dynamics of the relationship, how they came into this world as a unit, how they are a unit. But right now, what's really the issue that's happening is like, now what do we do? They're not able to play music. That is intentional by this negative polarity, because if you say Joe Biden or Donald Trump is going to be at whatever arena or stadium, it's free, everybody go, you can hear them talk. Or Pearl Jam's going to be at whatever arena or stadium, it's free, go listen. Where's everybody going to go? Nobody wants to listen to politicians. Everybody wants to go see and hear music because it brings joy. And the unification of the consciousness of people listening to that music is profound. And if everybody's on the same page in joy and happiness, that affects the collective consciousness in the most beautiful way possible, in the most positive way possible. So these musicians have profound influence on the collective consciousness. And when you speak from the heart with honesty and sincerity, like Ed does, people relate to that and people respond to that. And that is uncontrollable by this negative polarity. Okay? And so there's a reason during this time of transcendence and tribulation, we're being separated by social distancing. We're being separated by masks. That is intentional. This is not accidental. Okay? There is nothing accidental about what's going on. This is the negative polarity trying to maintain control of this world. And like I said in the last video, Donald Trump has been tasked with ridding this world of this negative polarity, not just of the United States, the whole planet. And the same way he's been tasked with dealing with this negative polarity. Ed, Matt, and Kim, and even Christopher from Spirit are tasked with healing through music. And I have my own task as a messenger. And everybody on this world has a role, but have you awakened to that role? That is the big question you need to ask yourself. Have you awakened and found your purpose? Some roles are a catalyst for change. Donald Trump is a catalyst for change. Pearl Jam, Ed, Matt, Kim, they're catalysts for change through music. They will inspire other musicians to create this wave of change and healing. But they are the tip of the spear. They are unified in this goal, in this intent, in this purpose. But they need to know it. And once they open up, they'll get their own messages and they'll know exactly what they need to do. Now that I said that, another thing is, I didn't want to talk about this because once you start identifying people in their purpose, they can become vulnerable to this negative polarity. So it's important to note that these individuals are heavily fortified and protected by energies that they can't necessarily see. But it is true, not only them, but their loved ones are heavily fortified and protected, their families and their children. And that's very important to note because you'll start experiencing psychic attacks, things start going wrong, they do stuff to frustrate you and anger you and make you feel vulnerable. But you need to fortify yourself in your faith and trust in God, in our divine creator. That is what is the most important thing we all can do, is we need to fortify ourselves in faith and trust. And that is probably the hardest thing for anybody to do because we have been taught to look to doctors, lawyers, money, houses, all these material things for healing. And that's where Christopher's role was so important because he was truly just a profoundly spiritual person. And all you got to do is read the lyrics to a lot of his songs. It's just blatantly clear how spiritual he was, and a little upset and bitter about the dogma and religion. But that was his role, is to rekindle and help people to ignite or revisit that part of themselves, because it has been we have been intentionally separated from God, separated from faith, separated from spirituality and trust. And it is necessary for us to move back to center and move back to that spirituality, faith, and trust in order to transcend. So I'm just going to take a second and center myself again to make sure that I have said everything I need to say. So this Christopher just came in and he said, it's important for you, he's talking to Matt, Kim, and Ed, it's important for you to acknowledge your inner light. It is important for you not to judge yourself by your past. We all make mistakes and we all do things that we regret. But that doesn't define you. You're beautiful. You're beautiful souls. You've always been beautiful souls. You've been beautiful souls over many lifetimes, over many millennia, on many worlds. But you need to rediscover that part of yourself. You are not this two-dimensional person on this world. You are so much more than you know yourself to be, than what they've led you to believe about yourself. He wants you to rekindle your inner light and find that light within. Forgive yourself and know that life is about experience, not about things. And some experiences are better than others, but there's always lessons to be learned from every experience, every event. So what you can do now is move from this point forward. What can you do right now in your life to create change in the way that you want to see your future? How do you want to see your future? And create that by loving yourself and seeing your true self, identifying your true self, and releasing all the energy, the negative energy and attachments from your past. This world will never be the same again, so you have to see yourself in a different light. And then he says, listen to my messages. There are no coincidences, only synchronicities. Watch for my messages. Okay, I can't. Thank you.